maybe what we can do, just start off with some intros. Marguerite, if you don't mind, I'll start with you. And if you're the most recent addition, or more recent addition to Forefront, there you go. That's right. So if you don't mind, just share a little bit about your background and where you're located and the nature of your practice and all that good stuff.
Sure. So my name is Marguerite Germain. I'm a board-certified dermatologist. I'm located in South Carolina. The reason why I'm in South Carolina is because I was in the Navy for 12 years, and my last duty station was Naval Hospital Charleston. So I got out of the Navy and I started to practice here. Now I have 4 locations, one in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, one in Johns Island, Pawleys Islands, and Somerville, South Carolina. I joined Forefront a year ago, and at that time I had 5 doctors, 6 PAs, 100 staff. I do medical, surgical with Mohs surgery, and the cosmetic dermatology. I try very hard to be full service, patient quality care focused, and I've always tried to be as cutting edge as I possibly could. Now, after a year with Forefront, I have 6 doctors, 9 PAs, so you can see I have the growth. I'm opening up a new clinic in Savannah, Georgia, so it's going to be a de novo clinic. So I'm growing and thriving, and so important to me, because I started this practice 23 years ago when I got out of the military. It was my mom who inspired me, my beloved mom, who helped me to get started. She worked in my practice for many years. Unfortunately, she's passed away now. So this practice is my heart. That's the people that work here are my family. So partnering with the right partner was so important to me. And I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, with all honesty, that I have no regrets in my partnership with Forefront. I wish I had done it sooner.
Dr. Jen, maybe you can share your background and where you're located and the nature of your practice.
Yes, I'm Iris Jen. I'm a board-certified dermatologist. I started my practice back in 2006 in Los Gatos, California, which is in the heart of Silicon Valley. It's a short distance from Netflix and Apple. The reason I started my own practice really is because I wanted to create a workplace where I could treat my staff like family and build strong relationships. And there are people on our staff that have been with us for over 20 years, and it's just like a Kalia family to us. What began as a single location steadily grew into a multi-site clinic, and now we have 3 separate parts to the office. We have 10 providers, 2 board-certified dermatologists, 2 PAs, and 3 RN injectors and estheticians as well. In the early days, we focused on both medical and cosmetic dermatology, and we continue to. Our second site was developed as a med spa specifically, and the third one dedicated to surgical and more advanced cosmetic procedures. At one point, we also offered Mohs surgery on site, and then now we've transitioned onto also doing superficial radiation therapy for skin cancers. It's been a really rewarding journey building a dermatology practice that feels like a family. Our patients also feel like family, and I'm excited to continue this journey with Forefront. And it's been just over 3 years since we joined, and things have been really, really great.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like there's a recurring theme there, family elements, right? I mean, Dr. Germain, you're the family orientation of your practice, and yours as well, Dr. Jen, and I've certainly experienced that at Forefront myself. It's a very collegial, family-oriented environment, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Dr. Asarch, Grand Rapids, Michigan, please tell us about your practice.
Yes, Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I know Dr. Jen and Dr. Germain well, and I'm very happy that they agreed to partner with us. So I've been with Forefront about 10 years. I came to, and on the family front, my father, which I'll get into later, actually joined Forefront as well. He partnered with Forefront. He had a practice in Colorado, and he joined us. But I'm in Grand Rapids. Started with just a couple of us in Grand Rapids, and now we grew it internally. Forefront and myself kind of partnered together to sort of grow this practice and build it into multiple locations with 10 providers. And then we subsequently partnered with Dr. Van Ederson. He's at Lakeshore Dermatology in town, both at Lakeshore and in Grand Rapids. And so, and that brought in another 7 physicians and APPs collectively. So, and I don't know if I started, I'm also board certified dermatologist and fellowship trained Mohs surgeon. So my practice is almost currently started. I did a mix of the two, but and my personal practice, our collective practice has everything that you'd expect from general dermatology office. We have general dermatology, Mohs, of course, aesthetics, and we use our training was pathology lab in Wisconsin, which is a great part of Forefront, but we'll get into that later as well. So that was sort of my personal journey. Then also became about, I guess, a couple years after that, joined the physician board, and so I've been heavily involved in sort of the central aspect of the company, and a lot with the partnerships, which is why I know Dr. Germain and Jen well. But we all know each other. It's a big group.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. So another family element there as well. That's great. Well, given the nature of this conversation is really sort of the business aspects of dermatology and partnering with Forefront and so forth, maybe we can each chat a little bit about what the catalyst was for partnering with Forefront. I imagine everybody's got a little bit of a different reason, but I'd love to hear, like, what was the catalyst, or what were you guys looking for in a partner, or what led you to explore partnerships? Maybe Dr. Germain?
Yeah, so I joined a year ago, as I said, and what I want to do is I wanted to maintain good patient care. Staff morale was important, staff culture, the culture in my office, and I wanted to continue to grow. But in the last 5 to 10 years, I just found it more difficult. I feel like the environment in this single practice is just difficult. There were lots of staff challenges, increased cost of staff. I felt there was, decreased loyalty. Staff is just a little bit more difficult to provide for, and there was lots of HR challenges. Payer negotiations were difficult. Cost of goods were constantly increasing. My whole goal was, I have a lot of passion for my practice. For those of you who know me, I get very excited about things, and I want to go. And I just found it very hard to grow and expand. And my practice, became large, and I felt like I needed more infrastructure, like CFOs, COOs. Like I needed something that I couldn't provide. So I wanted to achieve my vision for my practice and my life. I wanted to maintain some autonomy, but I couldn't really do well on my own anymore. So joining Forefront gave me all those opportunities, and I've just been, I can't believe the growth I've had in this last year.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know, Dr. Jen or Asarch, anything to add to that?
Well, I first heard about Forefront through my friends from former residency, and that's been going since 2018. So Forefront already felt like a family, and everyone spoke very highly of it. They enjoyed the culture of Forefront and the level of independence that they continued to have. And they also said how fair and equitable the whole process was, and how Forefront continues to be that way to them. And these are some of my closest friends. We've known each other, for 25 plus years. So it was just a really natural experience. And I really like the growth mindset of the company. And since then, we've had 2 other friends from residency join. So now we get to see each other twice a year at the retreats. And it's just so great.
I guess if you were, chatting with an old colleague or a friend who is, about to embark on this process, do you guys have any advice for somebody considering a partnership? And are there, like, say, 1 or 2 key takeaways that you might offer to a friend or colleague who's preparing for this? Maybe Dr. Germain, fire away.
Well, I would say that. Oh, well, I would say the same thing that, that I said, or that Jen said just a minute ago, is if you're thinking about embarking on it, it's good to kind of get your, like you said, your ducks in a row, and to be able to, give them good information, because you don't want to partner with somebody that's not going to do the appropriate due diligence. So I think just, having your information ready, I would say that would be my takeaway.
Yeah, good point. Dr. Jen, I'm sorry, did you have something to say there too?
Well, I think a lot of people think they need to optimize their profitability before they present their package. And I think it's a little different. There's never a bad time to partner with Forefront because the whole point is to join Forefront and continue to grow. So, so there's always next year where there could be more profitability, but that could actually be even more exponentially profitable with Forefront than doing it on your own because of of all the other help that we get with the ancillary things.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's a great point. Well, let's talk a little bit more about sort of the process, the integration, and what comes after the partnership and or the actual transaction itself. You know, as you guys are all well aware and have been through, there is an integration process, and so maybe you know, Dr. Jin, do you mind commenting on what that integration process looked like? I know people are always anxious about it and think it's going to be a bit of a nightmare, but maybe you can comment on your experience and was it good, bad, ugly, etc.
No, that was a great experience. I found it really interesting to see how Forefront had so many resources that can help streamline what we do in the office every day. Before Forefront, we had a piecemeal, multiple services, outsourced payroll, outsourced billing, separate compliance company, and we're paying for so many different services. It was hard to keep track. Then during integration, everything just came together. The integration team was on site for us for several weeks until the entire staff was comfortable with the new procedures, and it really was much easier than I anticipated. And then they came back a few months later to, just to make sure that we didn't have any extra questions. So it really made things much easier than I thought it would be because now we're all on the same system and we have a lot more support.
I have the same experience. I thought it turned out to be a lot easier than I thought. The central services, I use billing and IT, and the financial services, pathology, as Adam was talking about, recruiting. And I found, like Jen, that the cost of all that was less with Forefront doing it than what I was doing in my own practice, where it was kind of more piecemeal. I'd like to say that, especially with recruiting, that I've had the greatest experience. I hired in this last year, just in the last year, I hired 3 PAs that are fantastic, and a doctor who was in the military with me. I didn't realize he was looking for a job. Forefront found him, and he's got a great personality. Patients love him, and we all know how important it is to find these great people in our lives. And now I'll have somebody to practice with for the next 20 years. That's going to be fantastic. I'd like to just tell you also that this pathology, my experience with pathology has been amazing. They have this amazing pathology team that confer with each other. They're smart. They communicate with me. They're fast. They report things the way that I want them reported, and they were very clear about that. I just can't say enough good things about especially those 2 groups of central services. And 2 things that were most worrisome to my staff, and 2 things that people ask me about, my friends that want to think about joining us and partnering with us, is that they always think there's going to be changes in the staff when you turn over, and there's template changes that are going to happen for the providers. I don't know where they got this information, but my providers were so worried that their templates would change and that they'd be seeing a lot more patients because it was going to be more bottom line oriented. My staff was worried that they were going to get fired. And nothing of that sort ever happened. So I feel like anybody who's considering this, please put your mind at ease for those 2, especially those 2 observations. Certainly that did not happen. And the process, like Iris said, was very smooth.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, go ahead. Dr. Asarch,
yeah, just to echo that, that is our entire motto at Forefront. So when we're going into partner with a group, it's, as I was kind of saying at the beginning, it's really the physician owners who are continue to be in the partners to lead the practice. But we also, all of the physician employees, we want to make them incredibly, comfortable with the process too. And we work with owners, and we work with them, to make them happy. And as our turnover is incredibly low. People who join us tend not to leave because because I think we run a good organization. It's like I said, it's efficient, it's responsive, and it's supportive. But it's also really the physician leadership, I think, which is the biggest part really separates us from a lot of other groups. So physician leadership on the local level, but also on the central level, any decision that's happening, sort of in our central structure, there's a physician involved in all aspects of that. Like I might tell you a little bit later, we have a physician board, which is our leadership structure for the physician group. But billing, IT, anything, there's always a physician counterpart there helping to make the decisions, which I think is why it runs so smoothly. And with all that said, if there's something like you as the local owner or even the local employee physician doesn't like, those can always be changed and adjusted.
Yeah, those are good points. I mean, I think that as you all have sort of articulated, I mean, the most important element here is that, we bring a tremendous amount of resources to bear, but it's really at the discretion of the individual practice in terms of how much you all want to utilize these services, right? The central services. And so, I think that is one of the big anxieties, is that these big groups are going to come in and force all these services and do all this abrasive integration. But really what we like to do is present folks with a menu of services that they can kind of pick a la carte. And of course, they would contribute towards that in terms of covering the expenses. But, given the fact that we've, partnered with over 100 different dermatology practices around the country over a decade, we've really refined and built this team, and we're really proud of the central services team. And I know initially folks are anxious about it, but I think once they engage, they generally find it to be really a high-performing team that does a great job. And let's be honest, I mean, I think, staffing and HR in particular is probably one of the biggest pain points of all providers across the country today, right? And so having some real horsepower on the HR front, I think is really beneficial. I will say, I have to just be clear. I mean, there are a couple of things that are sort of non-negotiables, which, Dr. Germain, you kind of alluded to, but, IT integration, finance and accounting integration. Of course, we've got to close the books on a monthly basis with you all and so forth. And so there are a couple of pieces that are sort of non-negotiable, but generally speaking, it's all very flexible and negotiable, and it's a menu of services. So I think it's very accommodating in that respect.
Can I say one more thing about the integration process? Is that, I was worried a little bit about my brand, because I have a very recognizable brand in South Carolina, and, I have a 140,000 patient base, and, I have a good reputation, and I wanted to make sure that was maintained. And, patients come in, and to tell you the truth, they don't even realize anything has changed. I mean, except for the paperwork, and they realize something is a little different. But I mean, my staff, from the moment they arrive until they leave, they still get the same customer service. So that was so important to me, to keep my brand intact, and I've certainly kept my brand intact. So I'm really happy about that as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. And actually, Dr. Jin, you're still operating as Kalia in Los Gatos. I mean, nothing has changed for you, right?
No, we developed a very strong brand over the years, and we chose to name it Kalia because it's the Hawaiian word for beauty, and we were able to keep our name, and we still have our patient events twice a year that people have been, and nothing has changed with that. We have deep partnerships with local tech companies, including Apple, and in fact, we're the official Apple referral source for cosmetic dermatology, and none of that has changed. We have maintained our relationship with NBC TV. We're a Bay Area partner there, and that's continued. And as far as the patients are concerned, I would, as Dr. Germain said, other than the paperwork is slightly different, nothing else has changed. The customer service is still there, the patients are still there, and we still get to do what we want. So Forefront just makes us better. It's a better version of ourselves, but it's still us, still me.
That's great.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Maybe Dr. Jin, you've been to some of the physician retreats. Can you comment on some of the retreats and the collegiality and so forth?
It's really like coming to a family reunion. There are people we've known like in person, and people where we just see their names on emails, and you finally get to meet and talk, and it's always a CME focused meeting. So there's always education, whether it's wellness for the physician or office or efficiency, and just how to make life happier. So and I look forward to every single one of those.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Dr. Germain, please.
Yeah, I feel the same way. You know that it's always difficult. Like I said, change is always difficult. But you know, after the transition, you know, things were better than expected. And it's like Iris said, you know, my staff is happy, and they're actually, the providers are doing better even financially than they were before. So it's kind of up and away. And talk about the happiness factor. I mean, I always say happy staff, happy patients, happy me. So the staff being happier lifts the whole office up. The patients are happier, and of course, I'm the happiest because I'm the cheerleader of the practice, and I get more of a chance to be the cheerleader.
Let's maybe change gears a little bit to maybe you know, a more mundane topic, but a topic that nevertheless comes up a lot, which is it's really interesting for me as I travel the country and meet with physicians. You know, I'm really impressed and surprised by what percentage of, you know, dermatologists own the real estate that they're in. And I'm curious, do you guys own your real estate, and how did that sort of play into the process, and how did that sort of how did that land, and are you guys happy with that outcome?
Yeah, so I own 3 of the 4 buildings that my practice are in, and everything worked out great. I mean, Forefront's very fair. They looked at fair market value, and they did a very fair lease. So I thought that was a great advantage to the whole process.
Wow, great. Okay, 3 out of 4. That's awesome. Yeah, Dr. Jin, I seem to recall, don't you guys own your building or the suite you're in?
Yes, so we own all of the real estate. It is Kalia, and in terms of the real estate, it was a very seamless process, and they pay very fair market value, and there's a kicker at it, no, adjusted for inflation every year. So I think it's as fair as it can get, and which goes back to the whole Forefront process, that it's fair for everybody, and everybody, you know, gets the best deal.
You know, Dr. Germain, you had mentioned and had articulated a couple of times about just growth, and I think we're all very growth oriented. Maybe we can chat about that for a minute. Maybe for each of you, what did that look like? I mean, you know, Dr. Germain, you talked about a de novo in did you say Savannah, right?
Yes.
And also, I think, you know, Dr. Jin, you've done some expansions. Maybe each of you guys can comment on what growth looked like for you, because obviously there are a lot of different ways in which you can grow. And then how did Forefront support you?
So, you know, like I said, I have that de novo clinic opening up kind of as we speak in the next month or two. But the biggest thing for me is the fact that my profitability over this 1 year that I've been part of Forefront has been over 20%, profitability increase in 1 year. I mean, I've never done that in the past. And I feel like I just needed that extra support to get things really going and growing. So I feel like I have a great example of, you know, what can happen when, you know, you really kind of use the resources of Forefront to really improve things within your practice. And even the culture in my office is better than ever too. So increased profitability, happier people. I mean, that sounds pretty good.
Actually, can I double click into that for a second? So to be clear, you're saying 20% profit growth within a year, right?
Yes.
So you're not at 20% margins. You were already, it really had great, your profitability, your EBITDA over 20% in a year. Is that
I know it
correct?
sounds unbelievable, but yes, that's the case. Yes.
Okay.
But remember, I added
without
3 providers and, you know, and another and 3 PAs and a doctor, but also the services in my office have increased, number of patients passing through. I mean, everything has increased. I mean, it sounds unbelievable, but it's true.
Dr. Jin, what did growth look like for you?
Well, we're currently looking into starting another location and the novel practice, and Forefront's been very supportive. They have a real estate team in place to help us identify, you know, the best location, and the HR also in place. And the other way that we can grow is through acquiring, you know, new devices, new procedures, and Dr. Germain and I are both on the innovation committee, which I'm very excited about, because we help vet the best product in every category. I mean, this is so confusing out there with cosmetic dermatologists. There's a numerous numbers of lasers, and even within every category of fillers and toxins and, exosomes and products. And so we're able to help each other vet the best of the best. And then after that, the rest of Forefront, gets some guidelines into where to start, because sometimes it can be really confusing.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, bringing the sort of the best minds together to help sort of compare notes and opine on the latest technology and modalities and therapeutics and so forth. I mean, I think that's fantastic. It's like, an internal version of Consumer Reports, right, by leaders in the industry that's proprietary to Forefront. That's a great point. Maybe we'll close on sort of a final question or comment, which is, as you reflect back on your experience in the partnership process, or if you were giving somebody advice in anticipation of that partnership process, what advice would you give them? Or alternatively, if you were to kind of comment on your experience at Forefront more broadly, how would you characterize that? Maybe I'll start with you, Dr. Germain.
So as I reflect on, the transaction process, the post-closure process, I would just say, just honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I have no regrets in partnering with Forefront, and my practice is doing better than ever. So I think that's the biggest thing I can say, is that, I just, maybe I could say I wish I had done it sooner, but I'm very happy with the way things are going, Rafe, very happy.
Awesome. Great to hear. How about you, Dr. Jen? Any words of wisdom or advice or reflections on your experience thus far?
I think as for most physician owners, there comes a point where their practice has matured and they're in a good, happy spot. But actually joining Forefront actually can enhance growth and make everyone happier, and we grow faster. And so it's like once you get mature to a certain point and you need the system to continue to expand, that's what Forefront did for me and will continue to do for everyone in the Forefront family. And I think it was the perfect timing. Had I wish I had done it sooner, perhaps, but I'm really, really happy with how things are going right now.
Wonderful. How about you, Dr. Asarch? Any words of wisdom or reflections?
Yeah, I would just add, there's no risk to exploring it. If you're curious on what it looks like, you want to practice evaluation to see, what would a partnership with Forefront look like for you. Like, we can do that for you, and that doesn't mean that that you're going to have to, or necessarily going to end up in a partnership right then. It could mean it happens in the future. A lot of people we talk to at first say, they're not ready, but then, they come back a year or two later and then want to join. So, if you're curious and interested in how it's looking, and, we have a great team that can reach out and work with you and sort of explain the specifics of how it needs to you.
Right. That's right. We're totally an open book here, and between yourself, John Sullivan, myself, we've got a great team in terms of the corporate development side and unpacking what a partnership may look like, and we can turn that around pretty quickly. So, well, awesome. This has been a fun discussion. Thank you guys for the time, and I'll let you guys get back to clinic. I imagine you got a busy Friday afternoon, and I'll let you get back to see patients. But thanks so much for the time, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks a lot.